when you see all these asset classes moving in that direction, and you go back and you look at previous recessions, especially the Great Recession, they tend to do that right before the meltdown. And so we got together and I said, hey man, do you want to start a company? And that's when we started our first wholesaling company.
Look at the real estate market. It's not, the days on market are high, right? The inventory's high. So all this economic activity that's going on in the stock market is not filtering down to our real world economy today.
And having too much choice creates the inability to make a choice. Our first year, we did like 100 wholesale transactions, which was already pretty phenomenal.
And you're saying 2026 will be a minor recession. What does that mean compared to 2025?
I'll train you. He's like, I don't want to deal with somebody I don't know, but if you want to, I'll train you. And for me, that was one of those moments where it was like, this is my opportunity to get out of the constant grind of doing these little kitchen and bathroom projects. We switched at that time from doing only investment and wholesale transactions to doing more retail.
Welcome to another episode of Pick Up the Phone Podcast. I'm your host, Josue Llanas. I'm the CEO of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐻𝐿. I help companies with marketing and AI. Today's guest is Gibran Hernandez. Gibran Hernandez, at his peak, he did over 500 real estate transactions in a year, and he is a certified appraiser and real estate broker today. So, Gibran, thank you so much for being here.
No, man, thank you so much for having me. I love doing stuff like this. There was a time when I was recording 2 to 3 of my own podcasts per week.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it, man. It was a great experience. It was a good opportunity to get in front of a new audience. And I hope that today I'm able to get in front of some of these people that I've never met before.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And our producer didn't show up today. So because you have that, you're able to record and switch our cameras back here. So I'm really happy you have that experience today.
No, absolutely. If anybody sees me over here fiddling with my hand, it's not that I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm just working the camera angles here. I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets a fun experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gibran, let's get started, man. Normally I like to find out, what made people who they are today. So more importantly, I'd love to find out your story. Are you from Houston? Were you born in Houston?
So I'm not from Houston, man. I am actually originally from Guadalajara.
Oh, nice.
I was born there. My family, we migrated to the United States when I was 2 years old. I was about 2.5, almost 3 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I grew up here in Houston. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Houston is home to me.
Uh-huh.
It's where I've always been. I would even go on a gander to say that English was my first language, and I didn't visit my hometown again until like last year.
Really?
So yeah, it was something that for me was very different.
Got it. So you were born in Guadalajara?
In Guadalajara, yeah.
Okay, and then you came over to Houston right away.
Yeah, we came to Houston directly. We thought about going to a different place.
Yeah.
But family had friends here.
Right.
And so we kind of just landed here in Houston, wound up right in Sharpstown, right by the Galleria.
Nice.
And after, I think I was in 4th grade, we moved out to the southeast.
Got it.
That kind of not Clear Lake, but Beltway 845. Anyone who knows Houston, the 𝐬𝐵𝐺 area.
Okay, got it.
The Mont.
Yeah. Love it. Did you went to high school over there?
Yeah, I went to high school over there. I went to Dobie High School. Claim to fame over there, one of the PayPal Mafia, he graduated from the same high school.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know which one. It wasn't one of the big guys. He's big, don't get me wrong. But yeah, he's one of those guys graduated from our high school. That's kind of our claim to fame.
No kidding. Man, that's pretty neat. And so what about school? Did you go to any college around here or anything like that?
No, so I actually went to college in Alabama.
Okay.
So funny story, I considered going into the Air Force.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. I got all the way through MEPS, and it seems easy because you would think they're trying to recruit, but it's actually more complicated.
Right.
And so I got out of that, and then I got an offer to go to Alabama. They were trying to recruit Hispanics, and I was highly high grades on the SAT and the Spanish one. I forget what they label you as, but I was a National Hispanic Scholar.
Yeah.
And so Alabama recruited me, and I wound up going to University of Alabama, which is like very different than being in Houston.
Yeah,
All of a
very
sudden I'm in a completely new and unique environment
Yeah.
as opposed to what I used to be in.
Wow. University of Alabama is that Roll Tide?
Roll Tide, yeah.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
Yeah. We're playing tomorrow for the SEC championship.
Wow. Bro, I had no idea you went to that school.
Yeah, yeah, we've known each other for a while. Yeah,
For a long
yeah.
time. I don't think we've ever
Yeah.
talked about this.
No, I don't usually wear my gear or try to rub it in people's faces. Yeah,
Yeah, you should. I mean, like the Aggies here are very proud. They're like screaming Aggie all the time. It's pretty hilarious.
Oh, well, here's the problem. When you win all the time, you get haters. And so sometimes I just don't want to listen to the haters. The
Right.
Aggies, they're not used to winning like we are.
Right, exactly. Dang, that's really funny, dude. At some point, I know that you did a studying somewhere overseas, right? Where were you at? Were you in London or?
No, so I did 2 study abroads. I did one in Cuba.
Cuba.
That was the
Yeah.
second one I did. The first one I did was in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
And I loved it. I fell in love with it. It was actually part of my scholarship. That's the craziest part is they gave me cash in hand and they said, go do a study abroad.
No kidding.
And so I went to Buenos Aires, and originally I picked Buenos Aires because it just happened to be the least expensive place that I could find.
Yeah.
And my whole thought was, well, they're going to give me all this cash. It was like 25 grand. It was my out of state tuition in cash.
Right.
And I was like, well, where can I go to school that I'm going to be able to walk away with some money?
Yeah.
And I looked up Buenos Aires, and it's like apartment, like $700 a month.
Wow.
The entire tuition for the whole semester, like $1,900. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make money off of doing this study abroad.
Yeah.
It wasn't as much as I thought after I paid for the airplane tickets and everything.
Yeah.
But it wound up working out really well for me, and I loved it. And then I got another opportunity.
How long were you in Buenos Aires?
6 months.
So
6 months. Yeah, I did 6 months there.
Summer or?
So I was there at their fall
Mhm.
because their seasons are backwards from ours. They're southern hemisphere.
Mhm.
And so I was there from fall, and I left when the winter was starting. It's a cold winter over there.
Right.
And so we left, and I did one more semester in Alabama, and I got the opportunity at that point to go to Cuba.
Mhm.
And that was my last semester, which you're not supposed to study abroad your last semester. And so I said, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get back, but I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to go study in Cuba.
Right.
I think that's a bigger opportunity.
Absolutely.
And it really opened my eyes, man. That was
Yeah.
the first time in my life being in a country where you see that level of poverty and that amount of like backwards.
Right.
Even being in Mexico and Argentina, they're fairly modern, and all of a sudden here I am in Cuba, which has been disconnected from the world for God knows how long, 50 years at that time, 60 years.
Right.
And so it was a great experience. It really made me think differently about the entire world.
Right. Right. Made you appreciate, I'm sure, kind of all the comforts that you have here in town too, huh?
It makes you appreciate all of the choices that you have in the United States. Like going to the store, even just as simple as that, you walk in and you want cereal. There's 200 different boxes of cereal, 200 different brands that you can utilize or that you can buy. In Cuba, you walk into the grocery store at that time. Now there's not even grocery stores. They're back in a very dire situation. But when I was there was grocery stores and you walk in, but you have 4 boxes of cereal and they're all the same brand. And it's like, yeah, these 4 flavors, that's it. You have milk. There's one type of milk. You have cheese. You have 2-3 different types of cheese, and that's it. The variety and the choice and just your ability to make decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
It changes a lot when you live in a third world country like that.
Yeah.
That's been constrained for a long time.
Right. Right. Wow. I could definitely see how that could be impactful, especially at a young age. How old were you at the time?
So when I was in Cuba, I was 17. Oh no, I was 20. I'm sorry, 21.
21.
I was 21, or yeah. I just turned 21, I think. Something.
Yeah.
I was either 20 or 21, one of the two.
Right.
Yeah, but over there, 2021 is all the same thing.
Yeah.
21 only matters in the United States.
Yeah,
Everywhere else
does.
you go, it doesn't really matter.
Not at all. Yeah, I think drinking age in like Europe is like 16 or something.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I had friends that were study abroad when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And they were from Amsterdam and from Stuttgart, Germany.
Mhm.
And they always thought it was so crazy that we couldn't go into a corner store and buy beer.
Right.
And they're like, well, over there we drank beer at night with our parents, like with dinner. And they were 15 years old, the same
Yeah.
age that we were.
Yeah.
And over here, it's like a crime, you know?
Yeah.
And here you can be arrested for it. Over there, it's like, oh, I'm drinking a beer with my family. My dad sends me to the store to buy a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time they tried to walk in and buy some beer at a corner store here, and they got kind of laughed at by the cashier.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. The United States is a very different place than the rest of the world.
Very different. Very
Good
different.
in good ways too. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but
Yeah, just
it is
different.
different. Yeah,
It's
it's
different.
unique for sure.
The culture is very different for sure. So what happened after you did study abroad in Buenos Aires? You did Cuba. When did you get started in real estate?
Oh man, so when I got back, I didn't know what I was gonna do.
Mhm.
But before I left to try to make sure I had some kind of job when I got back, I had applied for Teach for America, and I'd gotten accepted to teach. Luckily, here in Houston, actually,
Nice.
it was between here and Denver. I picked Houston because it was home. I had family here,
Yeah.
and I did 2 years of that. At the end of my second year, I had bought a house. I was remodeling it. And the contractor calls me in. He says, hey, do you want to be a project manager for me?
Mhm.
And I did not want to do another year of teaching. It wasn't that I didn't like teaching. I enjoy teaching, man. But the bureaucracy that you deal with, like people in your classroom every day, they're always getting onto you about something else. It change programs every other day. The education system, that's a whole nother conversation we could have, is really, really broken here in the United States.
Yeah.
But I decided I'm just going to go try to be a project manager for construction.
Mhm.
That was my entry into real estate. I did that for a year. We got bought by a hedge fund, and I worked for the hedge fund for a year. And then after that, I went off and I was on my own.
Mhm.
And I started working. Well, my brother had quit his job at the same time.
Mhm.
And so we got together and I said, hey, man, do you want to start a company? And that's when we started our first wholesaling company
Yeah.
back in 2012. Yeah.
2012.
Yeah. That's
And-
coming out of the Great Recession, which was a great time to
Yeah.
be entering wholesaling.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about a time period where houses, there was just a ton of foreclosures. You'd go to the auction, there's 600 houses a month.
Wow.
I mean, it was a really good time to be getting into real estate at that point. And earlier you mentioned that we had our first year, we did like 100 wholesale transactions, which was already pretty phenomenal.
In your first year.
In the first year.
That's
The second
insane.
year, we did like 300.
Yeah.
And we cracked 500 in our third year, which was 2014, 2015, when we were breaking the 500-mile mark
Wow.
on wholesale transactions.
Yeah.
And, you know, in our head, we thought, well, this can go on forever.
Mhm.
Like this is pretty sustainable. And that's when you really start to realize that you've got to go with the trend of how things change.
Mhm.
And so at that time, our marketing was primarily based around Google AdWords. We were doing a ton of Google AdWords, but all of a sudden here come these big players. Big State Home Buyers was one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys came out spending $100,000 a month on Google AdWords,
Right.
and we were spending 20, 25,000. It was like a measly amount. And so our lead count just starts to go down, down, down. And you start to have to compete with other people. And we were a little slow to shift into that. So our deal count went down tremendously because we didn't see the changing trend. We didn't account for the fact that you got to move with the market.
Right.
We were still living in 2012, 2013. There's a ton of deal days, and those days were far behind us already.
Yeah.
If you're a real estate investor in Houston, Texas, you need to listen up. Andrew Fott with Renovo is the #1 lender with DSCR 30-year fixed loans. He can do 1 to 4 family. He can do 5 units plus. He can do commercial, anything you need. Andrew Fott is your #1 source for long-term financing. Right now, his current rates are high 5s to low 6s. He's got a 1 to 2 points in origination, and he can fund up to 75% loan to value, so he can refinance you, cash you out right out of that hard money loan that you have. no problems. And he's a direct lender, which means that you don't have to go through any AMC BS, right? So what that means is they have an in-house appraiser. No need to chase an appraiser to figure out how they do business. Renovo has it all in-house. They also have a in-house servicing company. So anytime you need any help with tax forms, any help with servicing your loan, Andrew is one phone call or email away to help you out. I'm a testament of this. He has one of my long-term notes, and it's always smooth as pie to get any sort of documents that I need. So Andrew's a relationship-based lender, meaning that if you're trying to figure out something with your loan, he can help you through it, guide you through it, and set you up for success. So if you're interested in a 30-year fixed rate loan, hit up my boy Andrew Fott with Renovo. His phone number is 210-425-2190. If you're a wholesaler in Houston, Texas, 𝐃𝐨𝐵 is the #1 guy to getting your deal sold in as little as 3 days. So 𝐃𝐨𝐵 works for the #1 buyer in all of Houston. This is called New Western. It's a massive operation. They have 20 to 30 dispo agents working around the clock to sell your deal as soon as you get it. All you need to do is, if you have your deal, call up 𝐃𝐶. If you give him just 2 to 3 days, if you give him property access, he can get you any number on any deal. They have a full closing team, so you don't have to worry about escrow, transaction coordination, any legal. And that gives you less time selling the property and more time to source your own deals. And that's how you scale your company. 𝐃𝐶 closed 72 deals last year, so you know that this guy is the real deal and an actual operator. You can reach out to 𝐃𝐶 at 409-527-1115.
It's crazy how things can very rapidly change in real estate when it comes to, especially marketing. It just happens like in a blink of an instant. You said that big state came in and they just kind of probably cleaned house at the time. What happened after? How did you guys adjust? What did you guys do after big state came in?
Man, so I think that we adjusted poorly. We switched at that time from doing only investment and wholesale transactions to doing more retail. And it was because we didn't see the writing on the wall. One of the things that started to pick up around that time, and this relates to what you do now, and this relates to the telephone here.
Yeah.
Cold calling got really big at that time.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing any of that. We weren't equipped to do any of that. And so that's the trend that we missed, but we started going more retail. And I want to say that all the way through the pandemic, our amount of wholesale we were doing went from 100%, 90%, 80%, 70%, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, until it was more than majority listings and traditional real estate, and no longer actually doing wholesale transactions. And so the game changed at that point, Right.
So the way that you guys adjusted was by mainly focusing on listings versus the wholesales.
Yeah, that was kind of the transition that we did. So rather than transition our marketing, we pivoted on what we were doing.
On the exit strategy.
On the exit strategy. Right. And so, I look back and I don't have any regrets. You live and you learn, and we had some really fun and great years doing the wholesaling. And I look at a lot of wholesalers who are coming up now. Yeah. And I always tell them, I say, that market moves really quick. Right. And the barrier to entry is low. Really low. And so if you don't have a consistent lead source, you got to get that first, right? Like a lot of people live off of I get 1 deal a month or 2 deals a month, and I'm happy with that. And they go out and they grind for that. But until you can really make it to where you're making 4 or 5 deals a month, it's not consistent yet.
Right.
And then the second thing that I would say to a lot of wholesalers is always keep your finger on the pulse of what marketing is doing, because it changes.
Right.
And right now, well, I'm sure you're aware of all this. There was a time, and it was maybe 2 years ago, where texting and voicemail drops, that was the marketing. That was working like crazy.
I crushed it with voice broadcasting.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That was the hit for a while there.
Yeah.
It was like, you drop 100,000 of these voicemails, you're gonna get deals out of it.
Yeah.
And I would argue that that's almost dead now.
It's dead. I would spend $800, bro, and I would drop probably around 100,000 ringless voicemails and voice broadcasts. $800 to reach 100,000 people is berserk.
No, that's an insane amount of people that you can reach for $800.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, when I first started, one of our big mass marketing was mailers.
Right.
We were sending out literally like invitation cards. Because the postcards, I've never really seen them work. I've always heard the gurus say that the postcards work. We tried it.
It's how I got my first wholesale deal.
That's crazy. It never worked for us. We tried it. We did the yellow letters. We did the color postcards. We tried them all.
Yeah.
It didn't work for us.
Yeah.
It was a losing effort. But we did the mailers, and those worked. We would get a lot of deals from mailers.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking about back then, stamps were 47 cents plus the envelope and everything. You're looking at 65 cents each.
Yeah.
So $800, you might reach 1,000 houses.
Yeah.
You were reaching what, 100,000? You said, yeah. I mean, that's
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. You can't beat the return on that. You know,
technology was pretty insane back in the day. When things started changing for me, and I had to shift all of my marketing. I started doing cold calling and ringless voicemails and the texting and the mailers. I was doing it all, man. And I was getting results from every angle, but nothing of it was fantastic. It was only because I was doing so many marketing sources that I was able to still have a good amount of deal flow, having 10 to 15 deals in the pipeline at any point in time. But dude, it was tough, man. It's such a grind to do wholesaling, and I think you're right when it comes to the consistency of the marketing leads. That's the number one thing that's important.
I think that you just made a really good point, though, and I think it's something that a lot of people miss. And if you're a new wholesaler and you're listening, I look at the camera. I'm that guy who's always done the kind of side camera. Listen to me. I'm talking to you right now.
You got to hit the 3 there.
Yeah. No. I think that you gotta have multiple streams. People talk about like multiple streams of income. You need multiple marketing streams. You can't just rely on one either.
No.
And sometimes when one is not doing great, when you have the 3, 4, 5 different ones that you're doing, number 3, 4, and 5 might be doing good, and 1 and 2 aren't doing great.
They'll compensate.
But they compensate. They make up for the ones that aren't doing good. And I think that some people, even we were stuck in this trap. When something's doing really good, you tend to go really hard on that one.
Right.
And you kind of forget about all the other ones. And then when the ish hits the fan and it's not doing great anymore, it's a heck of a lot of work to build it from scratch again.
Yeah.
Because you've neglected it for so long.
Right.
So I would actually say that that's one of the most important things is make sure that you have multiple different lead sources that you're working off of if you want to be a successful wholesaler.
Yeah.
And it's funny, man, because I know I'm talking a lot about wholesaling, but that's because I did it for 10 years, I was in that industry for that long. I'm an appraiser now, which is I'm still involved with wholesaling, but I'm on the other side of it. I'm on the side that gets hated now.
or loved, depending on who you ask, right? Because if someone is buying a piece of property, then I would want a very conservative, very good appraiser like yourself. I wouldn't want to have someone that doesn't know their numbers give me an appraiser, and then I go buy a property, and then all of a sudden the numbers were wrong, and on the backside of it, I'm losing money because of the appraiser report.
Man, I wish that there was more people like you that hire us. And no, I mean that because everyone seems to think that we're kind of the enemy.
Right.
We're like investor enemy number one. And what I always tell people is we're not your enemy. We're just here to tell you what we see in the data.
Right.
Like this is what the data is showing us. And I have some investors who've actually called me before and they thank me and they say, hey, you saved me from buying a really bad deal.
Yeah.
And then I've got some investors who they're maybe angry or not quite grateful about it. Instead, they're like, how dare you say that this property is only worth this? I don't agree with you. I think that it's worth a whole lot more money.
Right.
And so, yeah, we're on the same team. Like all we want is to see people succeed. And that doesn't, to us, that means giving them the most accurate value possible, not necessarily the highest value possible.
Yep. Accuracy is a lot more important than the best, especially if you're going to be buying properties, I'd say. What happened after you guys had a very successful wholesaling company? When did you transition into becoming an appraiser?
So I ran a construction company for a while there, at the same time that I was with the brokerage, but I started to kind of transition out of the brokerage. I always liked the investment side. I was never great at the retail side. Like, I remember I tried to go show houses and like represent buyers.
Yeah.
I was so bad at it.
Yeah.
I didn't have patience. It was like,
I would suck at it. Yeah.
I was like, I've shown you 4 houses. They're exactly what you want. How dare you not buy them? You
Yeah.
know, like, put an offer now and stop
Yeah.
wasting my time. And then when it came to listings, I think that my head, I was so stuck and so trapped with what I've been doing for so long with listings, with wholesale
Wholesales,
deals, that doing a listing felt strange to me.
Yeah.
It was something that I just wasn't good at transitioning into. And so I'd been doing the construction for a while, and I said to myself, let's do more of that. And I started building custom new construction. I really enjoyed doing that. I liked it.
Oh, you did a custom new construction?
Yeah. We did retail. We were building for people who wanted to do their custom homes. A lot of fun. You get to do really cool projects. You see things go from paper to reality.
Yeah.
But the problem was the pandemic hit 2020.
Right.
We've got all these contracts. We'd had, I think it was 5 houses. They're all $1 million plus houses. You're talking about really, really big deals. And then all of a sudden the budgets go crazy because construction material has just gone off the rails. And so we canceled all those projects. I survived by doing like kitchen and baths at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to do something. I'm going to start doing kitchen and bathrooms. And I made good money doing kitchen and bathrooms, but I liked the life cycle of a new construction where you're on a project for a year to 2 years, rather than having to constantly work to get the next deal.
Yeah.
And so that kind of really drove me that I've got to do something that's more consistent.
Right.
And so I got an opportunity to take over an appraisal company. I had to get my license and everything, but
How'd you meet the owner of that company?
so that's a funny story because I didn't have any interest in being an appraiser. I'd never thought about it. It's not that I didn't have interest in it. I just never thought about it.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine called me and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about becoming an appraiser. Do you know anyone who would sponsor my license?" And I said, "Well, I know there's one appraiser. Let me call him." And I called him and he said, "I don't do that. I don't sponsor people's licenses. It's a lot of work." Now that I'm certified appraiser, I can tell you taking on trainees is a lot of work. I don't blame him for saying that.
Yeah.
And so I called my buddy. I said, "Sorry, man, I don't know what to tell you." He calls me back the next day and he said, "Hey, actually, if you want to take over my business, if that's something you'd be interested in, I'll train you." He's like, "I don't want to deal with somebody I don't know, but if you want to, I'll train you." And for me, that was one of those moments where it was like, this is my opportunity to get out of the constant grind of doing these little kitchen and bathroom projects.
Right.
I'm getting burned out on it. And that's when I decided I'm going to be an appraiser. I said, "Hey, man, I've got more than 10 years experience now being a broker.
Yeah.
How hard can it be to transition to being an appraiser?"
How hard was it?
Great question, right? The answer is not that hard, but very different. The way that we used to value properties as a broker, as a brokerage, is so different.
In what regard? In what way?
So as a broker, I want to say that you're kind of always cautiously optimistic. Like you want to see the best in the market, and you're always looking at kind of the upper tier numbers, and you've got this bias built in where things tend to trend on the higher side. You tend to look for data that's optimistic to what you're doing or to your client. Like if you're trying to do a listing for your client, you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I think that you can get this." If you're trying to represent a buyer, you're always, how can I play it to where we're shooting low. So there's always some kind of inherent bias that's built in,
Right.
depending on what you're doing. And when you're an appraiser, you have to kind of throw that bias to the side. You're no longer allowed to be biased in terms of anything.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be completely independent to the data.
Right.
And so that's what really one of the things that I found difficult at first is that look at the data and try not to think anything around it. There's no end goal here other than to figure out what is this property worth.
And I feel like that's something that's so difficult to train on, right? Because I feel like that could potentially be even more like a sentiment, right? Rather than just pure data, like to train someone to say, hey, don't have any bias whenever you look at the data, but we're all inherently biased somehow. So how do you train that?
I think that you're touching on one of the biggest issues that there is in the appraisal industry is that we're asked to be non-biased, and sometimes trying to be non-biased creates a bias.
Yeah.
It puts you in a situation where there is a bias now. And it's not one that you mean to have, but it's one that gets invented because you're trying to not be biased. And so I always say this about appraising. There's the science of it, which is picking data and really running through the data. And then there's the art of it, which is learning to interpret that data and trying to also work around your USPAP regulations and stuff of not being biased. It's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
And even when you have a lot of experience, you don't have experience in that. And so that's really what you get taught when you're learning to be an appraiser as opposed to real estate investor or wholesaler or realtor, whatever it is that you may be doing.
How long would you say it took you to kind of be able to be at a point where you can confidently say, I can look at the data now without a bias?
Man, I want to say that I didn't feel comfortable putting values on paper for at least like the first 6 months. I was really nervous about giving the wrong value.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy is that there is no wrong value, but you're being told to create a reliable value, and you really want to do that. And that's, I know some appraisers who that may not be what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I think that just like in anything else that we do, there's people who are good at it. There's people who are not good at it, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't pass their licensing test, right?
Right.
I mean, there's agents out there that I think we could all agree are not good agents, but they have their real estate license.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing exists with appraisers. The same thing exists with attorneys and doctors and everything else. You know, there's a spectrum to everything.
Right.
And so we try to be the ones that are highly reliable.
Right.
And I would say that that's one of the things that really sets us apart now as an appraisal company is that we're known for giving the real value.
Right.
And I get that all the time from people. They'll reach out to me and they'll say, hey, we know that when we want to hire someone and give us whatever number we want, there's an appraiser for that.
Yeah.
I won't name that appraiser. I know them. But there's an appraiser for that.
Yeah.
And they say, when we want to know the real value, we call you.
We called Gibran. Yeah. I like I told you, I had Derek Kelly in here just yesterday, and he said, whenever we're looking at buying property, we're going to go with Gibran because he's the one that's going to tell us what the property's actually worth, right? So we don't want any bias, and we want to be able to save our ass on the back end. If anything goes wrong, we want to make sure that the value is correct going into the deal so we can make the right offer. So, yeah, I mean, other guests are also mentioning you already, dude, so.
No, and that's so cool to hear that. I mean, it's a really good feeling to know that the work that you do, it makes a difference for people.
Yeah, it does.
And we really, like I said, we try hard to make sure that we're accurate. I heard a really great story, actually, if I've got a moment to tell it.
Yeah.
So there's this wholesaler that we work with, and they came back and they said, oh, man, I hate you. And I said, why do you hate me? And he said, we said ARV on this property was 285. You came out at 335. How in the world were we $50,000 wrong? And he said, I think you're wrong. not me.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I mean, only time can tell,
Mhm.
right? And so the
But
buyer,
but the wholesaler is selling the property. He would want a higher number, right?
yeah, but he felt like he left a lot of money on the table because with the higher ARV, he could have charged more for the property up front.
Okay,
So
got
that
it.
was his argument, was like, hey, I left money on the table,
Yeah.
and I didn't know it. And he said, but I actually think that you're wrong. And I said, well, that's fine. The seller, or the buyer, now the seller, because it's rehabbed, he called me and he said, hey, do you really think we can sell at that number? And I said, look, I really do. Give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't sell in 2 weeks, price reduce it to the 285 that you thought originally,
Mhm.
and let it go.
Yeah.
Like it's just really cherry on top, isn't it? And so they did. They priced it at 335. They sold it in 2 weeks at 325. Put an extra 40,000 in their pocket.
Wow.
And so in that scenario, we really helped that person put that extra money, because had they listed for 285 in this market, no one was going to offer them 40 grand over. They might get 5, 10, maybe 15 grand over.
Yeah.
But 40 is a big leap, and you have to have the wherewithal
Mhm.
to list it for that extra value, for that higher number,
Yeah.
to potentially ever even get it.
Wow. And this happened recently?
This did happen recently. This was maybe, I mean, we did that appraisal maybe 8 months ago.
Okay.
And by the time they were done with the rehab, now they just sold it. So,
Wow. So this happened in this market right now.
yeah. And this
Wow.
is a tough market, man. I will say that this reminds me so much of the market that we saw in 2015, where inventory is starting to get high,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter if you do a beautiful job and you price it perfectly,
Mhm.
it may still accumulate days on market,
Yeah.
just because there's so many other things available. Uh, Man, are you familiar that there's a really famous social psychologist named Robert Cialdini?
I'm not. No.
Okay, so he wrote a book called Influence, and then he wrote another book called Prefluence.
Okay.
One of the things that he talks about in that book is how choice and having too much choice creates the inability to make a choice. And so they did an experiment where they had an ice cream stand, and on one of them they had vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. On the other one they had like 20 different flavors. He called it the Baskin Robbins model, right?
Yeah.
Everyone kept going to the stand with the 3 flavors.
Right.
They would go and they'd stand in front of the one with all the flavors, look at it, get this uncertainty, and then walk over to the stand next to it that
Yeah.
only had 3 flavors.
Right.
And it's because sometimes, not sometimes, always as people,
Yeah.
we don't want a bunch of options, because we get
don't.
lost in which one do I pick? Am I going to pick the wrong one, you know?
Right.
And when there's 3 options, it makes it easy. I'll take this or that one. And you might have some FOMO, but you don't have FOMO around 19 options. You have FOMO over the other 2 options that were there.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what we're seeing in this market, is that buyers are having that feeling of, maybe I shouldn't even pull the trigger. There's too many things available.
Mhm.
Maybe that means the market's about to crash, and maybe I should wait. And so I think it's creating a lot of uncertainty in people's heads. Yeah. And so even if you have a nice product, you're going to have higher days on market, and you have to kind of know that's expected, that's normal.
Yeah. What I'm seeing a lot of people that are actually doing successfully is, people like our friend 𝐬𝐮𝐞𝐭. He says it all the time, over rehab and underprice it. DK was in here, Derek Kelly was in here just yesterday. He said the exact same thing. James Solar said the same thing. So the people that I feel like are being still very successful in this market and not accumulating a huge days on market are people like them. He told me of James Solar told me of a story where they had property in Galveston, and there were 75 active listings in the area. They were waterfront, and they were a smaller house, but they listed it $40,000 under market, and they over rehabbed the entire property, even going as far as doing just beautiful, the outside, all of the, what is it called, the landscaping. So beautiful landscaping throughout. XYZ. They were able to sell it in 2 weeks, I think he said. So seeing something like that kind of, it rings a true bell to what you're saying. And I'm actually curious, Gibran, like honored to have someone that's been in the game for such a long time. I feel like experience is the best teacher. And so for the audience and anyone that's looking or watching or hearing this right now, where do you see, number one, what does 2025 remind you of? You said 2015. Let's talk about like what happened in 2015, and let's try to see if we can predict the future maybe based on what happened in the past. Can we do that for a second?
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you this much. The difference is that next year is going to be a very crazy year when it comes to financing. Jerome Powell's term is going to expire. And I'm not going to make this a political conversation. This is not what this is meant to be. This is an economic conversation. Jerome Powell's term is going to expire. We know that Donald Trump wants lower interest rates. He's asked for 0% interest rates again.
Yeah.
So when he puts in whoever it is that he's going to put in, it's going to be a loyalist to him. And more than likely, they're going to try to push to lower rates aggressively. Now, you have the other Fed governors who have to get on board, but there's a good chance that rates are going to come down drastically next year. And what that does to the economy is going to be a really big question. Is that going to spur people to go back out and buy more real estate? Are those interest rate drops actually going to lower the bond yields to where the interest rates for real estate come down? We don't know that. The rates might go up because people say, oh, inflation's going to happen. Rates need to go up.
Yeah.
The yields need to go up on the bonds. And so those are a lot of big question marks. I always do this thing called my bold predictions. And I started this year with one of my big bold predictions. And this is probably one of the ones where I've gone out the furthest, but I said, come 2026, which is next year, you're going to see a big drop in rates. You're going to see real estate inflation start to go crazy again. You're going to see prices start to move back up in the real estate sector. But come the end of the year, we're going to start to see the effect of all of that movement. You got to remember, we have midterms next year.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to make a big impact as well.
Right.
I think that by the end of next year, we'll be heading into a small recession. I'm not saying it's going to be a major recession, but I think it's going to be a 20-25% correction type recession going after the midterms, because it's going to be countering all of the inflation that's going to happen next year. So if you are thinking, I'm going to wait for a better rate, if you're a regular buyer and you're like, I'm going to wait for a better rate to buy, just know I'm going to be competing with a lot of other buyers.
Right.
Prices are likely going up. If you're an investor and you've got assets that you've been holding long term and you're thinking, should I sell them now or should I wait? You may get a higher price next year in that inflationary boom. And if you're an investor who's thinking around flipping, you got to really be thinking, I'm going to hold myself conservative on my ARV. Don't think about where the prices could be going. Remember that I'm buying as if it were today and what I would sell for today. Because I think that a lot of investors, I've said this, and there's people who get like super excited about it. And they're like, oh yeah, all my flips are going to go way up in value. And it's like,
don't do that.
That's speculating. This is speculative what I'm saying, but that's what I kind of see for 2026. And the reason I bring that up is because it doesn't follow the 2015 to 2016 playbook, but there was very different economic factors at that time. There was very different political factors at that time.
Yeah.
And I think that what's happening in today's world is we're going to see much bigger effects of it next year.
Guys, if you're doing business in Houston and you don't have a great title company, I highly recommend you guys to use Natalie Murillo with Black Label Title. They were awarded the best title company in 2026 by Houston Latino Magazine. But I think what's truly impactful of working with Natalie is that her title company can do pass-through funding for A to B closings. If you're an investor, this is very important to you because it means that you don't need to have your own funds to be able to finance an A to B closing on a double close. You can use the funds from the C to B to fund A to B transaction. you don't understand what that means, reach out to Natalie. She can explain it all to you. More importantly, you can make a very big assignment fee without your buyer or your seller finding out what that fee is. So it's a great opportunity to get with a investor-friendly title company. They also do blind HUDs, assignments, novations, subject to wraps. And so they close in all Texas counties, right? So they can do e-signing. You don't even have to have a closing in the title company, right? They do CE classes. Listen, guys, if you're wholesaling or you're investing in Texas, you need to call Natalie Merito with Black Label Title. And the link for Natalie is going to be in the show notes. So the number for Natalie Murillo is 936-442-8486. Make sure you mention Josue Llanas with Pick Up the Phone Podcast. If you're a real estate investor anywhere in the United States, you need to listen up. GetHardMoney.com is a free platform for real estate investors. You can find local hard money, connect with the lender directly, request term sheets, and chat all in one single place. What I really like about the website is that they have free tools. They have built-in AI comping. They have flip property calculators. They have cash to close calculators. Everything's 100% free. You don't even need to sign up to be able to use their calculators, which I find extremely useful whenever I'm running numbers on a property. So it's going to be free all the time, no cost ever. So if you're investing and you need a lender connections or you need deal analysis tools, it's a no-brainer, right? It's a no-brainer sign up. So the way to sign up is you go to gethardmoney.com and the link is going to be in the show notes. When you say, something like a minor recession, I mean, 2025, what would you call that? Because it just seems like the economy is not in a fantastic place. The stocks are up, everything's great. But when we go out and we go to the restaurants, it doesn't seem as packed as before. When we look at the real estate market, it's not, the days on market are high, right? The inventory's high. So all this economic activity that's going on in the stock market, it's not filtering down to our real world economy today. So what would you call 2025 then? Like, is that maybe not even like, probably not a minor recession or anything like that. And you're saying 2026 will be a minor recession. What does that mean compared to 2025?
So, okay, that's a really good question. What is 2025? Economically speaking, more than likely, we'll look back on 2025, 10 years from now, when economists look at it and say what really happened. Mm-hmm. And just so that everyone understands, economists are historically really bad at guessing what's going to happen with the economy. Yeah. They've got about a 50% track record, which means flip a coin and you'll be as good as an economist, right? But they're really great at describing what happened in the past, because now you can look back and you've got everything that you need there. Yeah. I think economists will look back at 2025 and we're going to call this the melt up, right? Assets are up. Things are moving in an upward trajectory in terms of holdings that people have. Real estate prices have held steady. The stock market, all-time high. Bitcoin went to all-time high. Now, I know that there's been a correction, but that's a whole nother topic. When you see all these asset classes moving in that direction, and you go back and you look at previous recessions, especially the Great Recession, they tend to do that right before the meltdown. And so a term that's been coined for it is a melt up. The assets are moving up, but everyday normal people aren't experiencing that same feeling. I mean, go out, like you said, go to a restaurant. Yeah. And I always say, if you really want to know how the economy's doing, go to Chili's on a Friday night. Right? Because that's where your middle income America is going to hang out. That's where they would be taking their family. If Chili's is full on a Friday night, the economy must be doing okay. Yeah. If Chili's is empty on a Friday night, then you've got a problem. Right. And I think that right now, if you drive by a Chili's on a Friday night, not just because people aren't going to Chili's, I'm just saying in general, those restaurants, your Olive Garden, your Chili's, those types of places, if people aren't going to those places, that tells you a lot about where the economy is. And I agree with you. I think that the stock market is not the economy. Right. And to believe that is blinding yourself to what is happening in everyday America.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's going to be very interesting, and you're right. There are a lot of factors that I feel like will determine which way the economy goes up or down in 2026. I think politics will play a huge role in it. I think that even like all these tariffs things that this guy's doing, like who knows what'll happen, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think the buyers feel that uncertainty today, and I think that's what also contributes to the days on market going up.
So a Nobel Prize in economics was awarded from somebody saying people's emotions play a role in economics. That's how big the people's emotions are in everything that we do. And so when people look at the news and they hear affordability crisis, or when people go to the grocery store and they're like, oh my God, it's so expensive to go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's what causes people to stop spending.
Right.
And I want to be clear with everyone. When I say recession, it doesn't mean that the world is melting down.
No.
A recession means that people are pulling back on their spending, because we live in a spending economy. And so when people aren't spending, it slows down.
Right.
And I think that if you know that that's coming, you prep for the fact that you're going to get cheaper assets. You're going to be able to buy cheaper things. You're going to be able to, people are going to be in distress. And so what are they going to do? They're going to have to sell off things and cash in on whatever they have. And so you want to prepare for that.
Right.
And I kept hearing people say it, 2024, the greatest transfer of wealth, 2025, the greatest transfer of wealth. And I think that people see it on the horizon, but they see it sooner than it is. I just think that we have a mixture of all the right elements for next year
now,
where we're going to really start to see the beginning of that. And I said, that's the beginning of it. The end of next year, I think, will be a very sad holiday season in terms of like Black Friday shopping, things like that.
When, in terms of your bold prediction here, when do you foresee the kind of the start of the minor recession that we see in 2026?
Right after the midterms. I think that people are going to be kind of freaking out about what's going on. I think that no one knows exactly how those midterms are going to go. And I think that coming out of that, people are going to be even more uncertain. Because you've got all these economic policies that are, if you don't fully lean into them, they're not going to work. And I think that what's going to happen is there's going to be some movement more towards the middle. And that, I'm not saying blue wave or anything like that. I'm just saying there's going to be some movement towards the middle. We're already seeing it in some of the off-year elections that have happened. There's movement towards the middle. And so I think that that's what's going to cause uncertainty. And that uncertainty is going to cause people to stop spending.
Right.
And when that stop spending happens, that's when we're going to start to see the economic slowdown. And I think that we're really going to kind of be in the meat of it in March, April of 2027. And that's really going to be the opportunity time where people are going to have to start selling off assets.
So a good timeline then for maybe anyone that's watching is to get cash heavy today, right? Get cash heavy today, maybe around the time that Jerome Powell gets out in the Federal Reserve, and then keep that cash heaviness going into 2027 to be ready for any opportunities. Would you say that's a pretty good prediction?
I think so. I think that you look at what is Charlie Munger doing, what's Warren Buffett doing, Michael Burry. All these guys are pulling out right now.
They are,
And it's not because they think it's going to happen next week or next month. It's that they don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
And they're saying, hey, you know what? I'd rather be holding a lot of cash and be ready for when it does happen. And there's no certainty when it will. All of my predictions, I'm just guessing based off of things that could impact, right? The Jerome Powell situation. I'm looking at the elections, and I'm thinking, okay, what are all things that could impact? And that's where those dates are coming from. But the black swan could happen. Something crazy we could invade Venezuela, and that could have an impact. We could get into a dogfight in Taiwan, and all of a sudden now all the AI chips, there's no AI chips. There's so many other little things that could happen. And historically, recessions don't happen off of the big things that we can see. They typically happen off of those little things that we can't see. And so I could be completely off base. So far, I've been okay
Yeah.
this year, but
Well, at the end of the day, Gibran, I mean, you're not going to be any more wrong than an economist. So flip a coin. So you're good. You at this point, you can make any prediction you want, and you have 50% chance of being on par with economists.
yeah, I'll either look really smart or look like a big idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
But I won't be any different than the big economist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, that's great. Gibran, let's shift focus here a little bit. I think that was really really impactful, everything that you just shared, and I think it's going to provide a lot of value to a lot of people, especially people in the real estate world, coming from an appraiser, that has access to all this data. So thank you for that. But I really, earlier before we started filming, you spoke about working with private lenders, whenever you do business, private lenders, attorneys, CPAs. I didn't even know that, appraisers, like me coming in as someone that owns a marketing company and has done real estate for a long time. I didn't even know that appraisers were working with attorneys, CPAs, and private lenders. How do you do business with attorneys and CPAs?
Man, that's a great question. I didn't know appraisers worked with attorneys and CPAs either. And I was an appraiser until I got a call from a CPA, and he said, hey, I've got this portfolio and I've got to figure out how do we calculate the depreciation on this thing. So I've got to establish a basis for when they bought it. And so we do a lot of retroactive dating on what was the value of that asset at the time that it was purchased or at the time that it was inherited, right? We get a lot of that from CPAs. On the attorney side, divorces, they always want to know what is the property really worth, right? And so there's us on one end saying, hey, we think it's worth this much. There's the other attorney or the other appraiser on the other side. And it's trying to get to a middle ground on the value there for attorneys. We also deal with like tax attorneys who are fighting the IRS. People say, hey, my property's not worth as much as it was originally worth, and I want to depreciate the fact that it's come down in value. That happens a lot for like commercial property, for example.
Yeah.
The value of commercial is so much based on the income that you've got properties that at one point maybe they were really highly valued and now they're not worth a lot, and people are trying to depreciate them down to the current value using different methods. And so that's what we're working with when it comes to attorneys and CPAs, is trying to find where we can assist them through evaluation and helping them achieve goals with their clients.
Got it. Would you be able to share maybe some stories or some really good examples of you working with an attorney or CPA and how you helped out a particular client?
Well, like I said earlier, with divorces, we do quite a bit of that. And I've actually almost had to go and testify, but we were able to work it out with the other attorney, the other appraiser. I actually ran across the table from a friend of mine in the appraisal industry, and we both kind of said, hey, let's work to get to the same number so that either one of us doesn't have to wind up in court here. And so that worked out really well, and the attorneys were very appreciative of that. The more people that you know, obviously, you're more useful to an attorney because you're a bargaining chip for them. And they can use you in their negotiation. Man, for CPAs, the work that we do for them is always tax related. I mean, there's CPAs that they're trying to figure out what do people owe. And if we can help them reduce that, one of the things we've started doing the bonus appreciation and figuring out, every element of the house and what is it that they can depreciate. And we've been doing a lot more of that. So, our bread and butter though are the private lenders. I mean, it's somebody who's going to lend someone else their money, and we're making sure that asset is really worth what they're being told it's worth. And I think that's maybe where we run into borrowers who get upset because they've told the private lender one thing, we come in and then their numbers get messed up a little bit because they've overstated the value. But we found that we started working with a lot of private lenders who've never worked with somebody before. And they always use us now, once you get the value that one time and you realize, oh man, borrowers make up numbers sometimes, or they shoot for the optimism. I don't want to say they make it up. They're optimistic about the numbers.
They think they want to win, and they're hopeful for the future, and obviously the numbers are going to reflect that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what those private lenders, they're grateful for us for. And that's kind of our bread and butter that we like to work with is private lenders, hard money lenders. We stick 99% to investments.
Nice.
We may be the appraiser that does 1 out of every 100 might be for traditional lending.
Wow.
But yeah, no, we stick to hard money, private money, and CPAs, attorneys.
How do private lenders even find out about you right now?
So right now it's a lot of word of mouth. So private lenders, they talk to each other and they go to their little private money conferences and they talk there. That a lot of it is actually us doing like some cold calling. We've seen this person will tell me, hey, this is the lender I used, and we'll call them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do, I laugh about it because my wife always makes fun of me. But when I get a cold call from a private money lender or a hard money lender, because a lot of them cold call now for clients, they'll say, hey, I saw that you closed this deal or this transaction, or I saw that you're a real estate agent on HAR. Do you have anybody who might use my services? The first thing that I always ask them is like, man, that's awesome that you're doing that. Who's doing your appraisals for you? And I do like kind of a reverse prospecting with them.
Yeah.
Where I'm asking them, who are they using?
Right.
So I'm not having to make so many cold calls. I'm reverse prospecting the cold calls that I'm getting.
That's good. That's good. I love that. What about attorneys? How do attorneys find out about you?
Oh man, so attorneys is really interesting. We like doing little meetup groups for attorneys, where we'll bring them out and we'll explain to them, here's things that we can help you with.
Yeah.
For them, it's not always finding the attorney directly. That is normally the client who will reach out and say, hey, I have a divorce, I'm getting divorced, and then we'll establish the relationship with the attorney.
I see.
But the thing about attorneys is they talk.
Yeah.
And they talk a lot more probably than any other industry I've seen. They're friends with every other attorney.
Right.
And when one likes you, you get called by the next one, and you get called by the next one. And so that's been working out pretty nicely. A lot of word of mouth, man. I've been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
And so we were able to establish a lot of relationships just off the relationships I was already using before, and then building from there.
Right. Man, that's pretty great. Finally, what about CPAs? How do CPAs normally find out?
So CPAs are one of the ones that we've struggled more to tap into.
Yeah.
The ones that we have worked with have all been word of mouth,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't work with a lot of them. We get jobs from the ones that we have.
Yeah.
And I would love to expand that base of business because
Yeah.
I like working with the CPAs. They're good clients.
Right.
But we've kind of struggled because CPAs, they don't take random phone calls. They're
I can see that. Yeah.
you've got a buffer there. It's the same thing with attorneys.
Yeah.
And you and I have discussed this before. There's a
Yeah,
buffer there
There's always a buffer.
to get onto the phone with them. It's not the same as calling a homeowner.
No.
You're usually going to get a secretary.
Yep.
And the secretary is going to say, hey, yeah, I'll take your number down. And you
Yeah.
never hear back from
No,
them, you
not at
know?
all.
And so, yeah, that's one where I haven't quite cracked the code
Mm-hmm.
on how to target them.
Mm-hmm.
But if anyone's listening, leave it in the comments section.
Please,
If you have any ideas for me. Yeah.
Either that, or if you know anyone that, if you're watching or listening to this, please keep Gibran in mind. Whenever you're speaking to a CPA, you're speaking to an attorney, just say, very casually mention it. I'm sure Gibran here wouldn't mind giving you a little referral fee. So anything to make the connection, right?
No, absolutely. And that's one of the things that's really interesting about USPAP and the way that appraisers work. We can pay out referral fees. It's a lot different than like real estate where you're capped at $50 or whatever.
Yeah.
We have a lot more flexibility when it comes to that. So
Oh, yeah?
if anybody out there has clients, let's sit down, let's talk and let's figure something out. I'm always happy to help service new clients, and I'm happy to make sure that people are properly compensated for sending those clients over.
Well, you're obviously very knowledgeable, and I think that you could offer a ton of value to any client or any potential client that may work with you. So, just the social proof of having someone here just yesterday talking about you without me or them knowing that you were coming the next day, I think it's pretty funny.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah.
I love hearing things like that, man.
Yeah.
It means that we're doing the right job.
You are doing the right job, man. So congrats on all your success, man. I'm really happy
Thank
to
you,
hear
man.
everything
Thank you.
that you're doing, and how you're expanding now into different areas of businesses and different people that you can serve, right? Because it's not something that's as common. I feel like, before you even sat down in this chair, I didn't even know that, appraisers work with CPAs or attorneys. So I learned something new today.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's always good to understand what I do, because if you ever run across somebody, and man, I was really happy that you had me on here, because one of the things I got to say is you helped me find my VA that does, and one of the things that we didn't talk about at all, it sounds like I'm just the boring appraiser, but I have a real estate portfolio too.
You do, yeah.
And so for the property management on that, it's just big enough to where we can do it in-house and have it make sense without having to sub it out. And you helped me find those cold callers for that. And I've now had a 3-year relationship with one of those people. And so I know that you know how to sort through those kind of people. So I appreciate you having me on. I'm more than happy to be here.
Absolutely.
And people know, like, you got to pick up the phone.
You gotta pick up the phone. Well, Gibran, I had a lot of fun today, man. Thank you again so much. How can people reach out to you if they have an appraiser that they need, or if they're an attorney or they're a CPA? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so one of the ways is just go to our website, blancandhammer.com. On there, you'll find all the information about appraisals. I'm also on Instagram, very active. I actually do respond to messages. And
can you spell out the name of your website?
It's going to be BLANCAND and then HAMMER.com. blancandhammer.com. And then on Instagram, Lone Star Appraiser, pretty easy tag there to remember, Lone Star Appraiser. And I'm more than happy. Like I said, I get questions all the time. If it's something simple that I can answer, I'm more than happy to answer. And I know that people are sometimes afraid or intimidated to reach out to an appraiser because they feel like they're going to have to pay a fee immediately.
Right.
I help a lot of people out. And the reality is that I've just been around this business so long that I know that when you help enough people, the business comes back to you. So
always,
if anyone ever has a question like, hey, I've got this appraisal, I don't know if it was a good one or not. That's always a good avenue for us to start a relationship and see how we work together, and also allow me to help somebody at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember like maybe just a couple weeks back, I think I had a property and I sent to, and you gave me like a quick overlook, and you were able to kind of help me out just quickly. So man, you speak, you do what you say, and you say what you do, Gibran. So thank you for that, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Appreciate
well, thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Had a lot of fun today, man. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.